hello to the folks who are hopping on to join us today. I'm going to give it one more minute, let a few more people join, and then we'll go ahead and get this presentation started. All right, this is Effortless Element Control for your MEP projects. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today's presentation is by Seth Greenland, Evolve Zone Mechanical Product Manager. As a reminder, we are recording this webinar, and you can find all of our webinar recordings on the Evolve MEP, one word, YouTube channel. So make sure you're following us over there. And we'll also reach out to everyone who registered to follow up with the recording. If you have any questions, please submit them to the Q&A function in your Zoom toolbar, and we'll try to answer those as we go through, or we might have time at the end. And if for any reason we can't get to your question, we'd be happy to follow up afterwards via email. All right, so with that, I will hand things over to Seth to get us started today.
Thank you, Marina. Let's just get right into it. Today we'll be covering a couple of different things that you can use to control the elements in your project. One of them being element filter, and the other is swap elements, which is a newer feature. Here, let me share my screen. And both of these tools, I think, are, well, especially the element filter. It's an extremely powerful tool. I think it's fairly widely used among our customers. But I think that there's a lot of room to learn about new ways you can use it. So hopefully this will be enlightening and help everybody out discover new ways maybe to use the tool or even just be introduced to it in the first place. So I wanted just to start out with a quick the summary text on the help documentation of what element filter is, and then we can talk about really why you would use it. So the text is just simply: the element filter is a dockable panel with highly customizable rule sets that help users quickly select, isolate, show, hide, halftone, or apply transparency to specific items in a model. Okay, so that's great. Like I said, it's tells you what it is, kind of what it does, but not really how you would use it or why you would use it. So that's what we're here today to do. So I'm just going to start out by, I guess, just launching the tool, and we'll take a look at it. It's a dockable panel, like it says. So I'll go up into the Evolve Mechanical ribbon, and this will also be in the Evolve Electrical ribbon if that's your flavor. But I'll come in here to Utilities, and we'll look for this little filter, this little funnel looking thing, the element filter. So I'll go ahead and click on that, and it's going to launch that panel. Like I said, it's a dockable panel, so I can move that around just anywhere on any of my screens, or dock it to part of my Revit session. And take a quick look at kind of the features and functions in here, and then along with some of these rules that we already have in here, and then we'll create a new one kind of based on a filter that I used a lot in CAD MEP when I was detailing. So we'll kind of recreate that filter in element filter in Revit. So just kind of looking at the functions here, we have refresh, we have modify filter, export and import, so we can export and import different rules. So what you see here is just the out of the box. This just comes with Evolve when you install. These are the element filters that we've created throughout the years that we found or thought would be helpful to our customers, or maybe a customer has requested it and then we've added it. So these are a lot of these are going to be things that you can use every day in your workflows. Let's see. So let's kind of look at a few of these. Hide clearance. Using this, we're going to be able to just really quickly hide all clearances within the project or view. I'm not going to read them all, but hide service by element. That's another really good one. Hide service by name. Those two get used pretty frequently. Let's see. And just going down the list, you can see we have quite a few. Show linked models. That's another good one. If I double click that, it could show the linked models if I had a selection or select an item selected there. So let's go ahead and use, there we go, use this hide service by element, and just then we'll kind of take a look under the hood, see what it is, how it works, and then, like I said, we'll go into making one of our own. So if I click on hide service by element, I'll just double click that, and it's going to say select element to hide all elements in that service. All right, so basically any element that I select, it's going to hide every other element within that service. So if we kind of like take a look at this one, looking at edit or modify filter, we can say that it applies, we can see that it applies to air terminals, ducts, flex ducts or pipes, and MEP items. And it's just looking for parameter EM service name is equal to whatever I select and hide that element or those elements. So it's really simple with how they're built. And I think it'll make even more sense when we kind of go in and build our own. So like I said, you see that it's hidden now. If I want to unhide that, all I need to do is come in here to reset view, and that's just going to bring back everything that was hidden with that rule. One of the things I like to do here, I know not all of us, but a fair number of users in fab parts in Revit came from the CAD MEP side. And I think it's pretty well known, and frustrations are out there everywhere. You just any blog post you read about fab parts in Revit, you'll find talk about functionality that was kind of left on the cutting room floor when Autodesk moved the ITM functionality over into Revit. So just really quick to kind of show you, some of the things that I missed about CAD MEP when moving to the Revit environment was one of the things that I used a lot, and it was this search filter for objects. And I felt like this was an underutilized feature in CAD MEP. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'll just quickly show how it works, and then we'll mimic that functionality in the Revit side. So what you do in this case, I found myself in detailing. I always wanted to isolate a CID or a specific pattern, whether it was to manipulate it in some way. Maybe it was the wrong size and I'd already placed it, so I wanted to update the product list within the items in the project, or maybe I just needed to change an end connector on it. There's just a number of reasons that I would want to go in and isolate a specific CID and do something with it. Maybe it's to swap it out. But with a search element filter, I'll just go, or search filter for objects. I'll just select everything in here. I'll open up my filter, and I can see I already have it built. I'm just going to remove it. But this is a really cool feature. And again, if you can do it in here, we can also do it in the Revit side with element filter. So when you click in here, it's just giving you a whole list of parameters, essentially, or properties within an item that I could pull from. So you can see insulation or material abbreviation, service, section, all kinds of great things that I could use to isolate certain items. So in this one, I'm going to use item CID number, and hit space. And then I have a few different options here. Less than, greater than, equal to, is not, or contains. And this one I'm going to say equals. So for this example, I'm just going to isolate my elbows. And I'll do the same, like I said, in Revit. Let's see, I had a cheat sheet I'm going to look at here. That's CID 2523. We'll also look at in Revit where we can find that CID 2523. I'll click OK. And now we can see that, or not. Let me try that again. Let me see what happened there. 2523, is that right? Live demos are fun. Always something. For some reason, it's not wanting to isolate just those items. There we go. Okay. So then you can see now it isolates everything in my selection, or not, it doesn't isolate, it just selects everything, or leaves selected everything in my selection. So then I could maybe isolate those, or I could hide, I could delete them, I could swap them out, whatever I want to do there. So again, talking about bringing that functionality into Revit, with an easy to use tool that can do even more than the original tool that it's meant to kind of take up the slack for. So let's go ahead and start making a new rule, and we can kind of look at what more we can do with it other than just select those items. So I'm going to come in here and just come down to the bottom. I have some different controls. My grid state management, add new, delete, copy, and export the grid state. So I can just do an add new. I'll start a new rule. And so for my filter name, I'm just going to say, I'm going to call this isolate CID. Again, this is very ITM heavy in this example, but don't limit this to just ITMs. This is any element, any parameter, really any unique attribute that an item or element could have in a project you could use to hide, isolate, make transparent, that whole bit that I read at the beginning. Okay, so I've given it a name. What categories do I want to include with this filter? This is really important that I don't select too much here. You might say, well, I want to be able to use it for everything. It kind of makes sense, but there's a reason not to, and I'll show you why. I'm just going to go into MEP. This is for ITMs, so I'm just going to isolate down the MEP items. So I'm just going to come here. I'm going to do pipe work. Hangers are good, and ductwork. Those are all CID-based elements. I'm also, just to show why you don't do this, I'm going to select pipework tags because that's a family, that's an RFA. And I'll show you exactly what kind of issues that can cause when we start creating our rules. Okay, so let's look at what else is in here. Again, we have rules. We'll come back to that and start creating those. We also have some different filter options. Ignore links when isolating items, so it won't touch your linked projects or linked projects. Case sensitive conditions for if it's a text-based query. We'll actually do that at the end of this or towards the end of it. We'll add a text-based query. And then enable PowerShell for even more filtering options available. We can actually incorporate PowerShell. Fortunately, I don't have time to really dig into that today. But let's see here, expansion options. It says right here, these options could impact performance, enable only as needed. And so think about what these actually are. Select contained elements within assemblies or model groups, or include nested elements. So in other words, it has to drill down into assemblies, groups, or nested elements in order to find a certain item. Now, some cases that might be necessary. So by all means, check them, but just know if you have a lot of assemblies or a lot of groups or just a very large model, it can really slow things down. Then we'll also look at this default filter action. I'm actually not going to enable that first just because it helps to kind of hit home the point of the lesson here. So, okay, so for conditions, I'm going to add a condition and the parameter, and this is where what I select here is going to be important. So actually, I'm going to hit OK here because we're isolating by CID here, we're going to be isolating by CID. Now, CID is one of those parameters that Autodesk, for some reason, decided we're going to make this hidden. We're not going to make this easily viewable. So I'll click OK, and I'll show you what I mean. So if I select an elbow here and look through my properties, my standard properties, I don't have CID anywhere. I can go and use a couple of different tools that are out there and available to find that CID, like this Revit lookup. It's a great one. If you don't have it, you should have it. And you can learn all kinds of information about this, about these elements that otherwise aren't visible to the end user. So I can see item, custom ID, 2523 there. So one other thing that Evolve gives you is mechanical properties. And when you load up a new project, when you load up Evolve for the first time, it's going to go through, find all your ITMs that are in the project, and it's going to create these custom other parameters, these EM parameters. And we can see one of them looks pretty familiar, EM pattern number 2523. So we actually expose that in standard Revit parameters so that you can actually get to it, whether you want to report on it in a schedule or use it for something like element filter or many other places, parameter sync, or there's so many other places that you can actually use that with other Evolve tools. Okay, so now that we know what we're looking for, we're going to pull from EM pattern number for our rule here. Go ahead and modify. Now I'm going to click in parameter. What parameter do I want to look for? We're going to look for EM pattern number. I'm going to hit the drop down, and look, I only have a few here. I don't have EM pattern number. I have design option, family, some type ID stuff, but that's it. It's a pretty short list. And that's because all I'm going to see in parameters is what is available across all of these different categories. So in other words, the only thing that MEP ITMs have in common parameter-wise with pipework tags, which is again a family, is these items here. And since I'm looking for EM pattern number and I'm only looking to manipulate ITMs, I can uncheck that pipework tags and come back in here and we'll see, oh, I may have to refresh here. Let me, oh, I had ductwork tags selected too. That was also a mistake. So it's always good to double check work there, but now let's see here. Now I have a whole bunch of parameters that I can choose from, including EM pattern number. So we'll go ahead and we can scroll down and select that, or I can start typing in here EM underscore pattern number. Okay, and then we can say is equal to constant value. That's enough to make it do stuff for us. So I'm actually going to go ahead and click OK. And I need to keep track of time here. It might be taking a little bit too much time. So let's see here. Let's see what happens. Isolate CID. If I double click that, it's done something, but not enough to where we can really know what to do. You can see this isolate temporary, but everything is still kind of shown. There's no link. So it did, again, it did something, but not enough. Not enough for us to really be useful. All right, so let's go back into the rule and I'll kick it up a notch here in speed. All right, so input constant value. I'm going to say prompt for value because I could do a constant value of 25, 23, and then it would always isolate all of my 25, 23s. But that's only going to be useful for that CID. And every time I want to do another one, I'm going to have to come in here and make a new rule or modify it. So not ideal. Maybe it could be if every day I want to isolate 25, 23, that could be fine. But instead of doing that, I'm going to have it prompt us for a value. So prompt for value. Now that value, this can literally be anything. Programmatically, it has no impact. I could write my name in here. I could write hello world. But obviously it should be something that's going to lead the user as to what to do next. So I'll say enter CID number and colon again. Syntax here doesn't matter. That's just a prompt that I'm going to see as a user to let me know what to do next. All right, so down here, I'm also going to select a default filter action, and I'm going to say isolate temporary. Again, that's going to open up a temporary isolate view of these items. So I'll say OK, and we'll go ahead and try it out now. And all I need to do is double click, and I get prompted, enter CID number. I'm going to enter in 2523 and click OK. And now you can see I have all of my 25, 23 CIDs showing. Now there's still a bunch of them in here. And again, from here, I can, maybe I, for some reason, want to make it a 90, or, if I have a 90 already, maybe I want it to be a short radius instead of a long radius. So I could use it to, isolate those items and manipulate them in whatever way I'm looking to do. So let's add some even more functionality to this. I'm going to go back up here to reset view. And, maybe I only want to do this on a certain service, my Steam service. Maybe I said, oops, I used a short radius. I should have used a long, or maybe more accurately, I'm doing a vent service and I accidentally used a quarter bend instead of a vent elbow or so. I don't, there's so many reasons that you might want to go back in and change an item. So I want to add some functionality to this to add to pick what service or service abbreviation. So I'm going to come in here and say add condition, and it's going to be an add. Oh, let's see. I'm going to delete that. Can I delete just that one? Yep. I'm going to add an and condition. because we want it to be this CID 2523 and whatever service I select. I could do or, so if I wanted to select a T and an elbow, so I could say the CID for a T and or the CID for an elbow. So it wouldn't require both things to be true to make that isolate happen. So I'll say add and then I'll add condition under the and I'll say same thing here. I have all my different parameters, and this is going to be fabrication service abbreviation. I think I'll use is equal to. I'll also do prompt for value, so it's more flexible, and I'll say enter service abbreviation. All right, just like before. I think I spelled that right. I'll say okay, and we'll try this rule again. Now, a service abbreviation, you may not know it offhand, but you can look at your parameters here. We have service abbreviation HW, or let's see here, we have CHWS. So now when I run this rule, it's going to prompt me for the CID. I'll do 2523. Okay. Now, what's a service abbreviation? I can do CHWS, and remember there is an option in our modify panel to be case sensitive. In this case, I'm not worried about it. But if I did want it to be case sensitive, I could make sure to have that be a thing here and say, okay. And now it's only isolating items or those 2523 elbows on my CHWS service. So any questions on that? That's kind of like I said, I just wanted to show one thing that you could use it for. It's something that I really missed going into fab parts in Revit that I've constantly had a need for, especially as a database manager and detailer, kind of wearing two hats there. I constantly had to go in and make changes like that. So again, if there's any questions, feel free to type in the chat, or excuse me, in the Q&A section. Otherwise, I'll clear this filter here and we'll talk about element swap. All right, I'll jump right into that. If any questions come in, we can certainly jump back in. Element swap is one of the newer ones. It came out with 7.4 just a couple months ago. And this one, I think, if you've been in any webinars with me in the last 2 months, maybe since the beta came out, you've seen me demonstrate this one because I find it so useful. It's so simple that I just can't believe it wasn't done before. Initially, it was, let's see, I'll go to, yeah, let's see, evolve mechanical and swap elements. You'll see the little graphic that comes up. This is actually conduit. And initially, this one was created for conduit. We have a new tool. It's auto run for conduit. So it'll actually, you basically give it endpoints, you give it where to start. It'll actually run conduits for you automatically. Amazing tool for the electrical side. If you haven't seen that, or if you're not aware of it, make sure to check that out. Or ask us for more information on it. We're certainly happy to help or to share some videos on that one. But what would frequently happen with that tool is it would cross conduits. Basically, it did a really great job of putting conduits in, but a lot of times it didn't exactly know, and you'd have to untangle them. Turns out it's infinitely useful for mechanical ITMs, RFAs. It doesn't matter what trade. It's just incredibly useful for that. So to use, it's about as simple as it gets. Click the element swap button icon in the Evolve Mechanical ribbon in Quick Tools, and select your first element and select your second. One of the places that I tend to use this, or have seen myself would have used this a lot when I was detailing. Maybe I have a hot and cold water drop. Hot on the left, cold on the right. Maybe I did that wrong. I want to switch those really quickly. So select the first one, select the second one, and it just swaps them. I need to do that again here. It swaps them. If it's connected, it's going to connect or swap everything connected all the way down that run to the main. So just like right there with 4 clicks, I guess 5 counting the, initiating the command, I was able to swap out an entire run, my hot and cold. It's not just for connected elements or pipes or duct. I can also swap out positions for equipment or just about any other element that I can think of. There are a few limitations. But I have these 2 boilers here. Maybe I want to swap the position of those. Just click one, click the other, and it swaps the positions. I could even swap a pipe out with with the boiler if I wanted to. You can see it kind of does some funky things. You can do things that you would never want to do with it, but also extremely useful things. Again, it's super simple. It's just one of my favorite new Evolve tools, just because it can save so much time. But hopefully that's been helpful. I think that's about all the content I had for today. Um, like I said, I just really wanted to go through a few things with elements that you can do with some Evolve tools, and really taking advantage of 3 or 4 different Evolve tools throughout the examples that we showed here today. But hopefully things that you'll find you can save a whole lot of time with, and help you out with your everyday detailing and modeling. So yeah, I'll just hang tight here. If there are any questions that come through, certainly chime in the Q&A. Otherwise, we'll hang out for a minute. I don't know if Marina had any other housekeeping items.
Always keep an eye out for new MEP Force road shows. We'll have events upcoming in San Francisco and Philadelphia this summer. If you don't know what MEP Force Roadshow is, it's a completely free event for anyone in the MEP, BIM, prefab community. We have some educational seminars, and then we always leave time for dinner and drinks provided by us. So it's just a great opportunity to come out, hear about what's new and up and coming in the industry, and network with some of your industry peers from the local regional area. And that's, what we hope to do, help you guys build communities and find resources so we can all get a little better at using Revit.
Yeah, and I will chime in on those. Those are really fun events. I've been to 3 of them now with Evolve, and they're a blast. Educational too, but we have fun.
All right, fantastic. Well, I don't see any questions coming in, so we can go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you so much, everyone who attended. Thank you, Seth, for giving us these great tips. And we will be following up with the recording. Make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, social media, or you can sign up for marketing emails on the Evolve MEP website. And that's the best way to find out when we have new demos, webinars, and those MEP Force events coming to your city. So with that, thank you everyone and have a great day.